I'm Kamal Santamaria. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, our weekly look at the world of business and finance. This week, the Euro's newest member, Estonia, becomes the 17th country to change its money. But what a time to be adopting the beleaguered European currency. It's bonus time again. Bankers find out what they'll get, but why are many threatening to leave London for Switzerland or Asia? As competition gets more intense between Gulf and European airlines, we speak to the boss of Qatar Airways at the opening of Doha's new terminal. All that to come, plus a look back at 2010 in numbers, the simple digits, which will tell an unfortunate story, I'm afraid. But first, a place we've spent a lot of time covering this year, Europe. It was, to be frank, a mess, with two nations needing emergency funds and endless questions over whether the euro currency would even survive. So is it the right time to start accepting new members? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Estonia's on board as of midnight on the 1st of January. It will be the poorest nation to use the single currency, but it does have a better debt record than the entire union. Here are the numbers for some perspective. Unemployment in Estonia, it's bad, 15.5%, while the Eurozone average is 10.1%. The country slid into a deep recession in early 2008, with the economy contracting almost 14% in 2009. But here is where Estonia has done better than other Eurozone members. Its debt as a percentage of GDP was just 7.2% in 2009. The average for the Eurozone, 78.7%. So perhaps there's something for Europe to learn from its newest adopter, but then something which marked the euro's decline was actually the smaller nations bringing it down. Jessica Baldwin takes a look now at a troubled currency as Estonia makes its grand entrance.
The euro has taken a hammering this year, reeling from one crisis to another. First Greece, then Ireland, with Portugal, Spain, Belgium and Italy considered to be the next possible danger zones.
There's no economic reason, no sensible case for Spain requiring a bailout, but it could happen. The markets react that way. And then you get the really big fish, and that's Italy. If Italy were to come under huge market pressure, that would be an unprecedented situation.
So what's ahead? Will the currency continue to be buffeted from one economic crisis to another? Or will the Eurozone countries agree to greater economic cooperation? Hard-working Germans have complained about dipping into their pockets to support less thrifty neighbors. Yet they're unlikely to pull out of the single currency, as that would lead to the breakup of the European Union. Some economists have suggested a two-tier option, with the powerhouse economies in one league and economically trailing countries in another. For countries like Greece and Ireland, reverting to their own currency would allow them to devalue, improving their competitive position. But experts say that wouldn't come close to offsetting the enormous disruption of ditching the euro.
C'est pas un choix qui a été fait il y a une vingtaine d'années.
To go down that road today and separate good countries from bad ones would be a sad thing to do, because it would put huge pressure on countries that have not tightened their belts, and it would be a sign of the Eurozone's weakness.
Converting myriad currencies into the euro 9 years ago was a smooth operation, with no foretaste of the emergency bailouts, fraught finance meetings and rescue plans. The question now for Eurozone leaders is whether they have the political courage for greater economic integration, including further transfers from rich to poor, or whether they will react to the markets, bailing out one country after another.
So let's look closer at Estonia now, the Euro's newest member. Joining us from the capital, Tallinn, is Andres Kasekamp. He is the director of the Estonian Foreign Policy Institute and a professor at Tartu University. Andres, thank you for your time. It is a really interesting time to be joining the euro. How long ago did Estonia really start looking at this, and did it perhaps, as they say, seem like a good idea at the time?
Well, for all the new member states of the European Union, it's not a question of if they join the euro, but when they join the euro. And this is actually Estonia's second attempt to get into the Eurozone. Back in 2006, Estonia was hoping to join on the 1st of January 2007, but at that time our economy was booming at nearly 10%, so our inflation was growing and we didn't meet the Maastricht criteria, so we didn't go for it at that point. And now with the world financial crisis, the problem with inflation, of course, dropped away, and it was an opportunity for our government to go for it.
Yeah, but it's also perhaps a dangerous time, because what we've seen in the last year is, you know, the exact opposite of what the euro was supposed to do. It was supposed to strengthen these smaller economies that came into the zone. Instead, they've ended up being an anchor, or have ended up having to help out, bailing out these other economies.
Well, if you recall the news in this region 2 years ago, the Baltic states were seen as an area with great problems. They had been the tigers of northeastern Europe, and already in 2007, 2008, the downturn started here before the global financial crisis, and our neighbour Latvia was forced to take an IMF loan, and the general speculation in the media everywhere was that Latvia won't be able to make the drastic cuts necessary and will have to devalue its currency. And the commentary was always that if the way Latvia does it, Estonia and Lithuania, the other two Baltic countries, will invariably have to follow. So for Estonia, it was very important to differentiate itself from its neighbours who were in a more difficult predicament. So it was a question of strengthening our image, because we were in danger of being forced to devalue, and joining the euro was a safe way out of that threat.
Yeah, but do you think the image is strong enough now? I think a lot of people look at the smaller nations of the Eurozone and see them as more of a problem, part of the currency's problems, rather than part of the team.
Well, I wouldn't say that about Estonia, because while there are peripheral countries of the Eurozone which are causing problems, Estonia is one of the few which actually do meet the Maastricht criteria, and Estonia joining now was taken as a sign by the European Commission that the euro is still attractive for some countries.
What's going to be the benefit to your average Estonian citizen, other than having some new notes and coins to look at? What changes are they going to see?
Well, actually, I think most Estonians are rather fond of the currency that we have at the moment, and there's quite a bit of nostalgia for our own Estonian crown, which was a symbol of our independence in the early 90s. So there's perhaps a bit of regret in that sense. But since our currency has always been linked to the euro and previously to the Deutschmark, it doesn't make that much difference, because we weren't able to run an independent fiscal policy in any case. So we're different from, say, some of our other Northern European neighbours like Denmark and Sweden, who are in the European Union but not in the Eurozone, but had more control over their own financial affairs than we did. As for the benefits, the first one is that we no longer have to fear a speculative attack on our currency, and that's a danger for a small country, of course. So we don't have to fear devaluation anymore. Also, it adds stability and should make our country more attractive for investors. It gives us an advantage, I think, over neighboring countries in our own region, like Latvia and Lithuania, who don't have the euro, and thus there's still the question of potential devaluation which hangs over them.
And does it put the final stamp on Estonia saying goodbye to Russia effectively, joining up to the Euro Club and ending its old association with Russia?
Absolutely. It's not just about the economy. It certainly has a strong element of our identity as Europeans, as no longer post-Soviet, and also it has a security dimension. As you rightly noted, that now finally, even though we're already in the European Union and NATO, and we also joined the OECD, being in the Eurozone should be a very tangible symbol that we belong to the West, and we're not in the Russian zone of influence any longer.
All right, Andris Kasterkamp joining us there from Estonia. Great talking to you. Thank you for your time, and Happy New Year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let's stay with Europe now. It could be another bumper year for the bankers. In the UK, workers in the financial district, they simply call it the city, could earn bonuses totaling $10 billion. But thanks to new European guidelines, they won't get huge cash payouts like they have in the past, raising fears maybe of a mass exodus of banking staff to other financial centres. Lawrence Lee has more on that.
You'd think Christmas would be a happy time for the people of the City of London. After all, the banks here paid their staff more than $10 billion in bonuses this year. But all is not well in the square mile. Despite the claims from the city that they deserve what they earn and make a lot of money for the British economy, The government here and the European Union are attempting to cap the amount the institutions pay themselves. The reply from here is, fine, you do that and we'll all move abroad. The financial institutions here have raised the threat of leaving London like the sword of Damocles over the heads of successive governments. Since the financial crash, the very idea that they perhaps should pay more taxes, curb their bonuses, or now face greater regulation has also gone down like a lead balloon and raising the threat all over again. For some bankers, the mountains of Switzerland beckon, or the beaches of the United States. Given how important the city is supposed to be to the British economy, it's all enough to give politicians the shivers.
You think of it as greed, but I mean, they're commercial enterprises. They're there, that's their role, to be profit maximising. If, as directors of those companies, if they were not making the most they could for shareholders, then they would not be performing their fiduciary duty. You know, they have to do that. And if they can move themselves to a different domicile where they're going to get, where they can get higher profits and they can distribute more, then they're going to choose to do that.
There is, of course, a different opinion among all those people in the UK who've been told that they'll have to carry the cost of the bank's failures, and who would be only too happy if the bankers took all their money somewhere else.
I think that it's overblown massively. Do we really care? I don't think we do actually really want to care, because to a certain extent a lot of people leaving will be people who manage hedge funds and other speculative businesses, which actually create more instability in the market. We need businesses to stay here. We need obviously money to be lent to small businesses, but that doesn't mean that you need the big hedge funds to stay in the economy. They can still leave, and I'm not sure that that means the economy will go down as a result of that.
For all the threats from the banks, the current government here has done exactly as the City of London demanded, pushing through enormous cuts to public services to balance the books. With friends like that, the money men of London shouldn't have too much to worry about.
When Counting the Cost returns, the airline industry, one of its fastest growing players is Qatar Airways. We speak to the boss, who's never short on a word. That interview and more in just a moment. Welcome back to Counting the Cost, your weekly business stop, right here on Al Jazeera. We try not to be too parochial on this program, but it has been a big year for Qatar, and it's fair to say expansion will continue to be the name of the game for a good many years to come, what with, well, Football World Cup on the way. And so we've caught up with the CEO of Qatar Airways for an end-of-year chat. This will give you an idea of what we mean when we say expansion. Qatar has orders for 60 of Boeing's much vaunted yet much delayed 787 Dreamliner. It's a fractious relationship between the two. Qatar Airways has said it does have confidence in Boeing to finally deliver the planes, yet it's also said it may have to cancel some or all of those 60 orders if the delays persist. For Boeing's part, there are estimates it may have already paid out $5 billion in penalties to the airlines over the 787. That aircraft makes up only part of Qatar Airways' expansion. It's one of the fastest growing airlines in the world, and indeed it does have $40 billion worth of planes on order and is considering buying more of the A380 Super Jumbos. And on the ground there have been changes too. $1 billion has been spent upgrading the airfield at Doha International, and that includes a temporary arrivals terminal. While on the books there's a plan to float the company as early as 2012. So here is our interview with Qatar Airways CEO Akbar Al-Bakr, plus a bit of a look at what will now greet you when you touch down in Doha. So here we are, opening day of a brand new arrivals terminal here at Doha International Airport, which in and of itself may not sound like a big deal, but what it does tell us a lot about is the rate of expansion going on here. Remembering the big goal now, we've got the 2022 World Cup, Football World Cup happening here, so expansion is the name of the game. Have a look around first. Check this out. This is a brand new terminal. It took a year to build, and most countries, they'd probably be happy with this as a brand new airport. In 2 years though, this will be obsolete, because down the road, about 4 kilometres that way, is a brand new Doha International Airport designed to deal with more passengers, designed to specifically deal with the A380 Super Jumbo. Qatar Airways themselves are expecting 16 million passenger turnover in this coming financial year. Add on to that, you've got upwards of 30 airlines which operate out of Doha Airport, so capacity has become a real issue, and it's become a real issue very, very quickly. We caught up with the CEO of Qatar Airways, Akbar Al-Bakr, to talk about expansion and other issues in the aviation industry in 2010.
You know, this is a very important hub now. We are the second largest hub. The first 6 months of this year, we are number 2 busiest airport in the Middle East, which really vindicates that what we are doing.
So there was no way you could have waited for the new Doha Airport?
No, we cannot, because if we wait, we will then divert our passengers to other airports which have better facilities than us.
What about A380s? How many have you got on order?
Well,
are you
we
going to
have
put more?
5 on order, and our board is contemplating on ordering some more. And we hope that it will not only be Qatar Airways that will be operating A380s to this airport, but there will be other airlines that will be operating A380s to this airport. We are building the airport not only for Qatar Airways. Of course, it will be my home. We will be the largest operator, like British Airways in Heathrow, like Air France in Charles de Gaulle. However, we want to provide the best product, the best services, the best facilities to our passengers, to entice them to come to this airport to get the best travel experience they can ever have.
Just a bit more widely on the industry. The last times you and I have spoken, we've been talking about economic downturns, we've been talking about volcanoes and ash and such things. How would you categorize the last year in the aviation industry?
Well, as far as we are concerned, Qatar Airways has performed very well in the current financial year. Our financial year ends in 3 months' time, and we have a very positive outcome of this year. And so was last year, though we were right in the middle of recession. Qatar Airways' performance was very good.
Expansion further? I mean, you've gone to Australia now, you've gone to South America.
That we have already expanded to 10 new destinations in this just 9 months of the current financial year, and we still have another 5 destinations to operate over the next 3 months before our current financial ends, which means that 15 new destinations at a time of financial meltdown, global recession. Qatar Airways is going places.
And that is something which has upset a lot of other carriers,
So
the European carriers.
So what? Actually, they are just frightened of competition. They should not be upset. British Airways has announced fantastic third quarter results. Air France has fantastic third quarter results. Lufthansa, this is making the biggest noise because they want to swindle their passengers with these high charges that they levy. They are afraid. They are afraid of competition. Why are they afraid of competition? They have hubs. They taught us how to make a hub. Why are they afraid of competition? They shouldn't be. We will not stop our expansion. Qatar Airways has no plans to slow down.
Do you talk to any of them about any of these concerns? Is there any point in engaging?
Well, they want business from us. They come and approach us for giving us product support. They come to talk to us about doing maintenance for our airplanes. They take a lot of business from us, but they don't want us to compete in their market. European airports are saturated. It is now the time for Europe to accept that there are Gulf carriers that will expand and that will fill in the void for the capacity shortage in international airports. And we will continue our growth on that basis.
Okay, so let's ask you that. Interest in Virgin Airlines, what do you make of that?
Well, as of the time being, Qatar Airways is very busy with our own expansion plans, with our own growth. I don't want to divert this attention of my management team because, you know, we are very leveled at senior management. We are not very head heavy, so that we have time to look at other people or to get involved with other people. We are too busy with our own expansion plans. Once we have stabilized the airline, we have reached all our goals, then yes, we will look at other opportunities when it is available at that time.
Final thought from you about the future, and I'm talking 12 years in the future, World Cup future. Qatar Airways has the job, I guess, of bringing everyone to Doha. What sort of state, what sort of size will you be in by then? And what about other airlines? Are they going to be free to operate?
Qatar has a very liberal air transport policy. His Highness the Emir would like everybody to come here as many times as they want in a day, as big aeroplane as they want to bring. We are going to compete with anybody that comes here. This is my job. And at the same time, Qatar Airways, by then, will be over 140 aeroplanes, and we will be operating to over 130 destinations. This is as of today. And me as a CEO, I will always keep on moving the goalpost when I arrive to it. So today I'm telling you 140. 10 years ago, I told people we will only be 35 aeroplane fleet. So you can see that we have huge potential and huge stomach for growth. By that time, Qatar Airways will be a very large carrier. And at the same time, we also want to open up for other airlines to come to my country. My country has such a huge economic potential, such a huge economic expansion plan. And we want everybody to be sharing that piece of the pie.
Akbar, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally this week, some numbers, but numbers which I think tell the story of 2010, a year which we'd all hope would be one of recovery, but perhaps hasn't really panned out that way. Watch them come up at the bottom of your screen and watch for the very stark differences. Over 2010, the benchmark index in the United States, the Dow Jones, rose 11.1%, and it should be said almost 20% from its year low in July. But unemployment, that's been the same, 9.7% at the start of the year, 9.8% by the end. Look at the UK, the FTSE 100, that was up around 11% over the year, 25% from its low in July, but again, unemployment's the same, 7.8% up to 7.9% over the same period. And Japan's Nikkei, pretty flat for the year with a slight 2.5% decrease, though up 17% from its low in September. Look at the unemployment though, almost no change from 5.2% in January to 5.1% at year's end. Do you get the picture here? Markets, once seen as the best barometer of a country's economic health, no longer tell the whole story, certainly not when people don't have a job. Earlier in the week, I had a chat to John Terrett, who covers a lot of financial news here on Al Jazeera. We were talking about a nice jump in Christmas spending in the US, but I wondered if it was just a blip in an otherwise still bleak picture.
I think it's a great question. It's a fantastic question, and I think the answer is that it's too early to tell. I don't think this snow that we've been reporting on in the northeast is going to help any, because I know that certainly in New York, which was hardest hit, they were hoping for a terrific springboard off the Christmas holiday into the New Year period, what they call a Santa Claus rally, really, where everybody goes out and spends and things do well. Well, they didn't get that because of the snow, so we'll have to see what happens as a result of that. But also you have to remember here that the only thing that's really going up at the moment is the US stock market in New York. That's been doing very, very well. But the recovery is slow. And it's also jobless, which means that people aren't getting the work that they would after a recession normally expect to get. And that's the big problem. So I think economists are mixed on going forward into 2011. And I think that the US economy probably will grow this coming year, but probably not by as much, to put aside all the worries that there are here. Kamal.
And on that note, it's just about it for this week and for 2010 here on Counting the Cost. A good chance then to thank you for keeping or indeed making a weekly appointment with us. And to the hundreds who've started following us on Twitter since we launched the page back in March, a big hello and thank you to all of you at AJ Counting Costs, the name to look for if you want to join them. Of course, you can catch up with any of the 53 episodes we've done in 2010 as well. Do that right here. All our episodes online and in full, blogs, additional content accompanying them. You get there from the business tab at aljazeera.net/English, and you follow the links to the Counting the Cost page. So that is it for Counting the Cost for another year. I'm Kamal Santamaria. On behalf of the whole team who bring you this show each week, thanks for joining us in 2010. The news on Al Jazeera is next.